Hey, this is John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on October the 26th in the year of our Lord 2025. So we've got some great information for you tonight. Let me go ahead and click Murtech on Rumble. Bring us over here to my Rumble channel, and this is the video we're watching tonight, episode 1727. Let's jump into this. Bring us over that. Let me close out the live chat, slide down here and click the show more button to expand out the description box. And you can do this too, folks. All right, Andrew Klavan tonight and Black Conservative Perspective, Devory Darkins, and Doug in Exile. But before we get into that, I do have some shout outs to give out. Gartz just started following my channel. Shungu just started following my channel. Lynn Dots just started following my channel. Mac just started following my channel. Lion and the Lamb 777 just started following my channel. B. D. Lee just started following my channel. KK3 just started following my channel. And Bartman 1969 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, down here, Conservancy and Linda Fossilman commented on my daily news wrap-up from last night. Egarts commented on my episode 1725. Debbie BS commented on my episode 1726. And Gunner6260 commented on my extra 511A. So thank you very much for your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I certainly appreciate your support. So let me give this a thumbs up. Boom. There we go. Okay, and I have one of those thumbs up icons right down here below this video. You're watching this video. If you just slide right down and click that thumbs up button, that would be fantastic. Okay, Andrew Klavan. This isn't his normal episode that he drops on the weekends with his monologue in it, but I did find it interesting. With transgenderism rates dropping, conservatives have a big responsibility. That sounds interesting. So let's take a look and see what that's all about.
I'm going to talk about a study about transgenderism, but I want to talk a minute about a personal experience that I had that was really interesting. My wife and I went to spend the weekend in Charleston, which we'd never seen. We just wanted to see Charleston, South Carolina, and it was raining, so we didn't really get to see this city at its best. The people were friendly. The food was spectacular, but we didn't really get to see the city at its best. So we had to stay indoors, and we went to a plantation. I think it was called the Drayton Plantation. My wife loves these things, and I'm like, I will do anything to make her happy. I'm just her love slave. So I went to I can't stand going into houses, but if it will make her happy, I will go into a house. So we went to this plantation. It was kind of cool because it was preserved. It wasn't like reconstructed. And the guide, we took a tour, and the guide was this absolutely lovely, charming, young, I would say in her 20s, archaeologist. She was one of the archaeologists on the grounds who were digging things up and looking for ways people lived. And she was an absolutely earnest, straightforward, friendly, sweet, nice person. I want to emphasize that. But the words coming out of her mouth showed that she had been indoctrinated in a kind of cant, a kind of talk that expressed an ideology. So, for instance, the whole tour was about the quote-unquote enslaved people. Now, you're not supposed to say slaves. You're supposed to say enslaved people. And she referred to the Draytons, the people who owned the house, as the enslavers, where, of course, they didn't enslave the people. The people were enslaved in Africa by their fellow Africans and then sold over here, and these people own them. But you're not supposed to say they own them because that suggests they own them, which they did, which is one of the grievous sins of slavery. You can't own another human being, but you can under the law. It's just like saying, two people of the same sex can't be married, but they can under the law. And so, so she kept saying this, and all she talked about was the slaves. She just every place we went, she talked about the slaves, and the slaves is this and all. And I was thinking, and I don't want to start trouble, but I'm thinking, I'm interested in the life of the slaves, and I certainly am not one of these people who makes excuses for slavery. I think slavery was a bad. I think it was an evil, and I think yes, it was universal, and yes, we fought a terrible war. America fought a terrible war with itself to end it. All those things are true, and yet it was a bad thing. And so, I have no problem saying that. Great countries do bad things, and bad countries do bad things, and we are a great country that has sometimes done bad things. And but I thought, I don't come to a plantation like you get this kind of at Mount Vernon too, where George Washington lived. The lives of a cook are not as interesting as the lives of the people who ran the plantation, who were, doctors and scientists and really interesting. So at one point, in this kind of mild-mannered way, I said to her, we were in the dining room, and I said, well, who would have dinner here? And all she was talking about, the enslaved people would come in. They were forced to bring in the meal and all that stuff. And I said, well, who would come in here? And she would say, well, they would have dinner with other enslaving families. That was her response. And again, lovely person, very smart, just an archaeologist digging stuff up, doing really useful work. But it was like a mind virus. There was no way to challenge her without challenging, without basically making a pest of myself and making myself kind of unpleasant to her, which was not going to heal anything or change anything. But I was sitting there thinking, like, this is bad. We should not let these sites, especially the sites that are presidential houses, we should not let them be taken over by this philosophy. And we should explain that people come here because George Washington was a great man. That is why they're here. They're not here to see the houses where the enslaved people lived. They're here to see George Washington. Fish are good. Alaskan food never go support. And this or not, fish of the /Klavan for 30. Is it legitimate to talk about the slaves? Yes. Does it correct something that we were doing before? Yes. But we can overshoot the center. We can overcorrect and say things that are that it's kind of crazy. It's basically saying that the normal way people are, that they want to see the lives of the great men who formed their country, that is a normal thing, that they're somehow wrong about that and they are to be deprived of that. So I say this because a new study, and there is a connection, a new study has come out showing that the number of young Americans who identify as non-binary has dropped by nearly half since peaking in 2023. The percentage of university students not identifying as male or female plunged from 2023 to 2025 in 3 of 5 surveys evaluated by political science professor at the University of Buckingham in England, Eric Kaufman. And here's Kaufman describing his study, which is cut 13.
The trends look the same across these 3 separate studies. The peak of woke and the political peaks are not necessarily the same as the gender and sexuality peaks. They're not the same thing. There's quite a bit of independence between these trends. That is a peak in 2023 of what you might call non-conforming sexual orientations, that is neither heterosexual nor gay or lesbian. So one of the other categories, which could be bisexual, but equally could be queer, questioning, pansexual, asexual, demisexual, one of these other categories. The choosing of those kinds of non-conforming categories has declined. The pandemic led to a rise in mental illness in the entire young population. I suspect if we had data for 2021, it might even be worse.
The study, as he says, as he's sort of saying there, it doesn't actually say that transgenderism declined, but he is deducing that from the fact that fewer people are confused about what sex they are. The people are identifying as male or female. That's what he's saying. And so the headlines are transgender identification among American students nosedives, study shows. But I think the interpretation is largely fair. And I think that the 2 things come out of this. One is that during the pandemic, when people were locked up, when their school was ended, when they were told that they had to go out in masks, which was a ridiculous thing that had no effect on the spread of the disease, when they were told that they couldn't do anything until they got the vaccine, and if they didn't get the vaccine, they were evil, and anybody who believed the truth that it came from China was evil, and anybody who believed that the vaccine didn't cure things, which it didn't, was evil. All of that stuff. I think it drove people crazy. And the mental illness was on the rise. And this is a mental illness. And it's a mental illness to think you're something that you're not. It's not a mental illness, I don't think, to think like, oh, I'm a guy, but I feel girly or I feel feminine. That's a problem that you have, but that's not necessarily mentally ill, right? Mentally ill is to see what is not. And to say that you are a woman when you're a man is to see what is not, and that is mental illness. And so we have this the spread of mental illness caused by the mishandling of the pandemic. And it's not caused by the pandemic, it was caused by the government mishandling of the pandemic. And then you have this induced direction of mental illness. And I think that, like, to do this to people, I think, I'm not saying this lovely lady who was giving a tour in the house was mentally ill, but I think it's important to understand how powerful ideas are, and that some ideas are true and some ideas are not. I mean, it's like talking to kindergarten people to describe this, but I think we have to talk about this. Some ideas are true and some ideas are not. And when you have ideas that are not true, you may think, oh, this is a noble lie. This is going to make things better. No, when I hear bigots talking about people, a lot of the stuff they say is true because we're all screwed up and people are terrible and black people are terrible in a different way than white people and Jews are terrible in a different way than non-Jews and all of that stuff. We're all awful. But you can always be honest and be a bigot. So, but my question is, like, how do I love people as they are? How do I take people as they are? And I find, by the way, that makes the world more real. It makes life more realistic. I can tell more what's going to happen when I take people as they come than when I try to tell everybody that everybody should act like this or everybody should act like that. And so this phase we have been through, this 60-year phase, a lifetime-long phase of leftism, which is all false. It's all false. It's not false that slavery was bad. It's false that slavery was the only thing that was going on. It's not false that women should have more choices. It's false that women should stop being women. It is an induced mental illness. And so we actually have a job in front of us of making sure that our ideas are healthy ideas that reflect the truth. It is no good lying on the other side either. It's such a powerful moment, such a transitional moment. We don't want to miss it. We don't want to miss the joy of it. We don't want to miss the thrill of it. We don't want to miss the excitement of it, but we also don't want to miss the truth of it. For more.
All right. I have to agree with him, folks. Let me know what you think in the comments or the chat. Clicking on the Rumble link takes us over here to Andrew Klavan. Boom. I'm following his channel, giving him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's get back here and see what Black Conservative Perspective has to say on NBC Analyst delivers nightmare news to Democrats as failing leader bends the knee in defeat. Okay, well, let's see what that's all about. Okay, I don't hear the video coming through here, so let me do a quick refresh. I hate to have.
Just did now, but I'm Donnie, who you have Queens in common with. That's where you started your political career. He says he's leading a movement that has won the soul of the Democratic Party. But Chuck Schumer, his home state senator, hasn't endorsed him. Hakeem Jeffries just did now, but by many accounts, it took him too long. I think some people who've been critical of him would say that. What about them? Because if party leadership, I mean, they are the House and Senate leaders, if they can't navigate this kind of moment with clarity, how can the rank and file confidently navigate the upcoming midterms?
I totally agree with you. You said exactly what I agree with, and not just me. Millions of Americans agree with that as well. They want to see our party leadership stand up. And we're not seeing that. Again, I mentioned the candid lines, strongly worded letters. That's not what we want to see. And then when you start throwing communities under the bus or not showing real fight for communities, then people feel left out. You don't have that big tent party. So that is what I'm talking about. Mamdani is a perfect example. He rightfully, right, he did the work. He connected with people in the way that we hadn't seen in some time, and he won the primary. He did it the way that he was supposed to, and still wouldn't get Democratic leadership to support him.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got some nightmare news for Democrats, as it seems that their party has officially fallen to the radical socialists. Yes, I am about to stick a fork in the Democrat Party and to say that the Democrat Party of yesterday, right, of, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, they're gone, right? They're done, okay? It's over for them, okay? The radical lunatics have taken over. And one of the reasons why I know this is because Democrat leadership has now endorsed a socialist, right? Zohran Mamdani, a mask-off socialist, okay, running for mayor of New York City. Hakeem Jeffries, before today, was struggling to endorse him, right? He really didn't want to say one way or the other about whether or not he would endorse Zohran Mamdani.
Are you ready to endorse Mamdani yet, Leader Jeffries?
As I've repeatedly said, Joe, I'll have more to say about the mayor's race when I have more to say about the mayor's race.
Today's the day for more. This is part of the future you were talking about last time you were on. This could be the future that you were talking about when you could do it. No.
Well, let me say that, listen, I'm going to continue to lean into the principle as Democrats that we believe in a strong floor and no... Well, listen, affordability, of course, is the top issue for the country. But as Democrats, listen, we believe in a country that brings about a strong floor and no ceiling. You work hard, you play by the rules. There should be no ceiling to your success. Right. That's what I believe in. But at the same period of time, there should be a strong floor anchored in things like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Was that an endorsement? That almost sounded like you're easing into. So that's what Mamdani, A equals B equals C. That's what he stands for. Therefore, you're endorsing Mamdani. Is that? Have I got that?
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But what I will say is that I do think that he took an important step in indicating he plans to retain Police Commissioner Jessica Tish, who's doing a great job by all accounts.
Okay, so that's getting you closer and closer. We appreciate. Appreciate as always speaking with you.
But apparently things have changed, okay? And I think the reason why things have changed is because it looks like Zohran Mamdani is going to win. He's going to become the next mayor of New York City. And also on top of that, you have a full-blown communist that is running for Senate in Maine, okay? He's running in a Democrat primary, Graham Plattner, and he is absolutely destroying Janet Mills, the sitting establishment Democrat governor. So what you have here are major races, or put it this way, Democrat primaries, at least as of right now, being won by socialists. It looks like a communist is going to be a sitting Democrat governor in a Senate race, which is going to open up the floodgates for the far left freaks, lunatics, to run against Democrats in the primary. And the problem is that Democrats now have to make a choice. Are you the party of capitalism or are you the party of socialism? Okay, because right now, Democrat leadership, again, like Hakeem Jeffries, he's sounding real incoherent, right? Considering how the socialist that Hakeem Jeffries just endorsed has already said he believes in a ceiling, right? He believes in a strong ceiling. There should be no billionaires.
You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Yeah, so with that being said, this NBC News analyst is going to deliver some nightmare news for the Democrat Party that basically at this point has to embrace socialism. Essentially, if you are a Democrat and you're running in a primary, right, if you are an incumbent and you're not a socialist, then you're going to have some problems. You're going to have some big problems winning the primary. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Back 2 weeks to Election Day, and Democrats are counting on one of the most prominent figures to lead them to victory in two of the biggest races. Former President Obama will hit the campaign trail in both New Jersey and in Virginia just 3 days before Election Day. It comes after the former president endorsed Mikey Sherrill in her bid for governor of New Jersey and Abigail Spanberger to be the governor in Virginia.
You know the irony of Obama endorsing this woman out in Virginia, right, Spanberger, is that this guy literally lectured black men on how they should support a black woman, right? You remember when Obama said that during the 2024 election, right, during the campaign trail, okay? Winsome Sears, you know, is a black woman, right? And now all of a sudden, he doesn't think that the brothers should go out and to support a black woman, right, because she is a Republican. Again, it should tell you everything you need to know in regards to how, again, pro-black just means pro-Democrat, right? It only counts if you're pro-Democrat. If you're not a Democrat, all that black stuff goes out the window, okay? I just want you guys to understand.
Meanwhile, in the race for New York City's next mayor, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries appears poised to finally make a decision about endorsing Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani, who won the nomination on the Democratic side in July. Jeffries tells reporters that he intends on making his thoughts clear on the race after dodging questions on the matter for weeks. NBC News national political correspondent, of course, is Steve Kornacki, and he's joining us now. Steve, I'm glad you're here for this conversation. Mamdani is a self-described Democratic socialist. How does he fit into how New Yorkers and Americans feel about this idea of socialism?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Peter. I think we kind of look at New York City and we say, well, politically, culturally, New York City is kind of different than America as a whole. But how about New York City and the National Democratic Party is what's happening in this mayoral election, where the Democratic candidate, Zohran Mamdani, continues to lead in the polls, benefits from divided opposition, unpopular opponents, where he continues to be the favorite to win here. Does that say anything more broadly than New York City about the Democratic Party nationally and its attitudes towards socialism? Socialism, which we used to, not that long ago think would be politically the kiss of death to be associated with. Well, take a look here at some numbers from Gallup, because Gallup has been testing this for years, for decades, really. Basic attitudes towards socialism and capitalism. These are the latest numbers that they came up with. Overall, asking folks, do you have a positive view of socialism? 39% of Americans said yes. 54% said they had a positive view of capitalism.
Well, I'm going to tell you, that 39% is way too damn high, right? For overall, right? That is way too damn high. Let's be real. For Republicans, 14% too high. Independents, too high, 38%. And for Democrats, again, this is devastating. And again, I'm going to get into the numbers, because when you break this down by the poll numbers, right, I'm going to show you guys why this is going to be devastating for Democrats, particularly in general elections in swing states, right? In swing districts. This is the kiss of death for the Democrat. It's going to be over for them if this is the direction that the party's going to go in.
But look at the party split here among Democrats. Look at socialism. That's nationally again. 2/3 of Democrats nationally, not talking New York City, but across the country, say to Gallup they have a favorable, positive view of socialism. Only 42% of capitalism. And take a look here. Independents, Republicans, it is different. Slight majority of independents favorable toward capitalism. 3/4 of Republicans favorable towards capitalism. Well under 50% in each case favorable to socialism. Now, this trend among Democrats nationally also, it's not new. This has been building for some time here. Again, from these Gallup numbers, take a look at this. Start on capitalism. Go back to 2010 here. Democrats were basically split then, 15 years ago. Positive, negative on capitalism. And look at that number. It kind of stayed steady. And then in the last 5 years, it's fallen down to 42%, barely over 40%. And
again, the crazy part about this is that you would think that people would have a less positive view on socialism, considering how during the pandemic, this country became more socialist than ever. And that is the reason why the cost of living has gone up so much, right? When you're subsidizing literally everything, when the government is subsidizing everything, okay, when you're getting the government involved in everything, that is what is leading to the increase in costs, right? That is what is leading to the inflation that we are still experiencing, okay, even though it's not as bad as it was before. It's not great, right now in regards to what people are experiencing, you would think that people would realize, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to spend less money, right? Maybe we need to pull back on the handouts. Maybe we need to, kind of pump the brakes on market interventions, right? Having the government do too much, okay? But apparently, Democrats want the government to do more, right? They want the government to do more.
At the same time, take a look at what's happened with socialism. Again, Democratic Party attitudes here. 2010, it was 50-50. It's ticked up. And now in the last couple of readouts, 2/3 of Democrats saying they have a positive image of socialism. So if Mamdani is successful, Peter, in New York City, I think one of the things you might say is it's not a revelation necessarily that socialism, that his brand of socialism might be palatable to some Democrats. It might just be further confirmation of what polling has actually been telling us for some time now, not just in New York.
Yeah, that much more striking, though, of course, New York being, in effect, the epicenter of capitalism in our country and could have someone like Zohran Mamdani running the city before we know it. Steve Kornacki, always good to have you. Thanks for your expertise here.
Wow. Yeah, so again, far-left progressives are going to say, oh, this is great. This is amazing. See, we told you guys, the American people want socialism, right? This is what they're going to say, right? They're going to celebrate that. But I'm telling you, it's not good, right? It is really, really, really not good for the country. And it's also not good for the Democrat Party. Let me explain. Okay. Look at this bombshell poll that just came out. New York City mayoral poll. You have Zohran Mamdani when Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa in the race. He's winning by 18 points, right, over Cuomo. But at the same time, he's not getting 50% of the vote, right? He struggles to get 50%. That's essentially his ceiling, okay? You know this because when you take out Cuomo or you take out Curtis Sliwa, he still can't get more than 50% of the vote, right? Which tells you that the majority really don't like this guy, right? They don't really want socialism, okay? Even in a liberal city like New York, okay? One of the more liberal places in this country. The fascinating part about this poll, the really fascinating part, is that now it seems as if Curtis Sliwa might be the best candidate in a 1v1 race rather than Andrew Cuomo, because Curtis Sliwa, without Cuomo, has 41% support, while Mamdani, again, still has less than 50%, but 49% right there. Without Sliwa, Andrew Cuomo has 39%, and Mamdani still has 49%. So Curtis Sliwa at this point, 101, is performing better than Andrew Cuomo. Now, again, why is this devastating? The reason why it's devastating is because when you compare these numbers to the actual results of the New York City's mayor race with Eric Adams, as you can see here, Eric Adams won with almost 70% of the vote. Okay, this is how a Democrat is supposed to perform, right? So you talk about Eric Adams, who, is not a socialist, right? He didn't run as a socialist. He actually ran as a moderate, I believe, during this. Yeah, he did run as a moderate. This is why I was so pissed off with Eric Adams, because he ran as a moderate. And then when he first got in office, he was woke as hell, right? But yeah, he won with almost 70% of the vote. But with the socialists, 101 against Curtis Sliwa almost gets 40% of the vote, and Zohran Mamdani can't even crack 50. What does that tell you? Well, what that tells you is that even in a ultra-liberal city like New York City, right, a socialist can't get more than 50% of the vote, and that he's significantly underperforming compared to a more moderate Democrat in a general election, right? A general election. So what does that mean? When you extrapolate this to swing states, when you extrapolate this across the country, right, in places that are less liberal, which a vast majority of the country is less liberal than New York City, that means that these socialists who can win in these Democrat primaries, who will win in these Democrat primaries, they're going to struggle significantly in general elections. They're going to struggle because the country does not want socialism, right? But the Democrat base wants socialism. And because Democrats have decided that, hey, we're going to appeal to the lunatics and the freaks in order to win primaries, right? In order to maintain power and control, they have no choice, again, but to embrace this stuff. And then once you get to the general election, that's when you start to really get hurt, right? You can't win. So if you have these socialists that are winning these Democrat primaries, they're going to get in general races and they're going to lose, right? They're going to lose. You're going to have Republicans. They're going to be more competitive in liberal districts, right? Blue districts than they otherwise would be if the candidate is a socialist, right? Which means that you can see some districts that lean blue who have socialists winning Democrat primaries. They could easily have Republicans win those races because of the fact that socialism is not popular with the general elected, even though it is popular with the Democrat base. And that's why I find the race out in Maine to be so interesting because, again, if that lunatic Graham Plattner, who's a self-described communist, he's a communist, okay? We're talking about farther left than Zohran Mamdani. More of a lunatic than Zohran Mamdani, which is hard to believe, right? More of a lunatic. That guy is more dangerous than Zohran, to be honest with you, okay? If that guy wins, he's going to be going against Susan Collins, who's a Republican. Now, Susan Collins is already a sitting senator, right? And she's more moderate. But I just got a gut feeling that he is going to perform significantly worse against a Republican than Janet Mills would have performed against a Republican because, again, Janet Mills is more moderate, right, than Graham Plattner, right, the communist. Now, again, Janet Mills is still, a lunatic, right? And she's still far left in my book, but she's not running on communism, right? She ain't outright doing that. So that's the difference. So that's what I'm saying. In a state like that, a more of a gray state, more of a swing state where you can have, again, Republican senators and, Democrat governors or whatever. Like when you have that, when you have those type of states and you have these socialists that are winning these Democrat primaries, that is not going to bode well for the Democrats in general elections. They're going to get stomped. And that could very well ruin the premature victory party that Democrats are already throwing when it comes to the midterms, okay? Because, again, these socialists are going to have a hard time in these general elections. And the crazy part about it is that you got Hakeem Jeffries, fold into this. And it's like, they're still going to primary you anyways, my guy, right? They're still going to primary Chuck Schumer. You're going to lose your seat. You're going to lose your job to a socialist in the long run. That's what's going to happen. So you coming out here and endorsing him, that doesn't mean they're going to endorse you. That doesn't mean they're going to support you. We already have seen Zohran Mamdani when asked about whether or not he's going to support Hochul. He's like, nah, I'm good, right? I'm not going to answer that question right now. But Hochul came out and endorsed him. She bent the knee. But he didn't bend the knee to her. It's over, right? It's over. I'm pulling the plug. It's over for Democrats.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause it there. I hope he's right. I mean, they're getting crazier and crazier. I don't think everybody in the Democrat Party is getting crazier and crazier. They're crazy enough. We might just get a few of them to say, no, that's too much. A few of them have already. Hopefully we can get a few more. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Black Conservative Perspective. This is the video I shared with you. I'm following his channel. Giving him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what Devory Darkins has to say regarding Newsom stunned after DOJ announcement as Democrats suffer major election blow. Huh. Well, this sounds good too. Let's see what that's all about.
All right, guys. I'm dying here.
Right here's where I want to start.
You cannot make this up, okay? Just read this on the screen, okay? Because we're comparing here. United States President Donald Trump's nominee to lead a federal watchdog agency, Paul Ingrassia, withdrew on Tuesday following a report that Ingrassia described himself as having a Nazi streak. So he went onto social media, said, hey, I'm pulling my name for consideration because I do not have enough Republican votes at this time. Why won't Planter just do the same thing? Why won't Democrats just demand the same thing? So when they claim that Republicans are always supporting people who have some Nazi ties or say some racist things, that's false. We just saw what happened to the Young Republicans group that got disbanded and canceled and fired. But hey, it's okay if Planter continues to run. It's okay if Jay Jones continues to run, right? Even though he wants to see his political opponent assassinated. At any rate, I want you guys to watch this next clip because I think it's going to shock you. Take a look.
I think if this country is about anything, It's about understanding that every person, me, you, everybody else, has gone dark moments in our history, and we go on.
So you're standing by your endorsement?
Absolutely.
That's embarrassing. I'm sorry, that's embarrassing because, look, I understand that why the reason so many Democrats are holding the line is because they're looking at the Republicans and they're saying they always hold the line and it doesn't matter how embarrassing, how awful their candidate is. And so they're saying we need to do the same thing. And I'm saying, no, don't do the same thing. That dude doesn't represent me. We need to assess our entire American political value system. Having a Nazi tattoo should be disqualifying. Period. In the sentence. This guy doesn't represent the values of the Democratic Party. He represents maybe the values of Maine, which is frightening enough. And I'm just saying that, I don't think the way that you return fire with the Republicans is by going as low and as ridiculous as they do. You can't stand yourself apart. You know what they say about arguing with a fool? From a distance, you can't tell who is who.
Well, there's no doubt that she is a fool because I just gave you guys definitive evidence that shows that Republicans do not support when someone starts doing some Nazi stuff, okay? I mean, they canceled a young Republicans group and this guy withdrew his name. This all happened in the matter of the last few weeks. But Planter's still running. Jay Jones is still running. And they have nothing to say. It's just interesting. And I'll give her a little credit. At least she acknowledges this guy has no business running. I'll give her that. And I'm really shocked because when was the last time you ever agreed with Jamel Hill on anything? Okay, but let's go to this next clip. This is Scott Jennings, I think, dropping the bottom line. Take a look.
I hate to break the news to you, but he's winning the primary by 30 points.
Well, I think
getting
that's why
a
he needs
Nazi
to get
tattoo,
out.
Getting a Nazi tattoo made him more popular.
I don't think it made him more popular
among Democrats. You've got a guy running for attorney general in Virginia who wants to murder Republicans, and he raised $500,000 off
people
of
have
it.
also
You got
said-
Nazi tattoo guy in Maine. I sat out here for a year, 2 years, listening to every Democrat at this table say, Donald Trump's a Nazi, Elon's a Nazi, and your party is now in love with a guy with a Nazi tattoo who trained a left-wing paramilitary group and called himself an Antifa super soldier on the internet, and he's going up every day. Good luck getting him out.
Your president.
Good luck getting him
the
out.
person that you nominated.
Good luck getting him
pardoned 1,600 insurrectionists. I don't think the Republican
It's not
Party
gonna
has.
work. You're not going to
room
wash
to
away
talk
the
right
Nazi
now.
tattoo with
I am
your
not
talking
saying,
points.
and what
Not
did I
gonna
just
work.
say? What did I just say? I said that he should resign.
Good luck.
And I think that Democrats should
Scott,
all
are you making
speak
the
out
argument
that
that he should
resign.
stay in? You seem to be
Look,
very eager to defend his strength in the primary.
I am but a humble political analyst, and I will just tell you that when you're winning a race by 30 points, if a pundit on television tells you, well, you need to think about dropping out, you laugh in their face.
I don't know.
This is a year.
So bottom line here is we have two Democrat candidates, one who wants to see his political opponent assassinated, including his children, and one who covered up his Nazi tattoo. And both of them are still in the race, and Democrats collectively had not called for them to drop out. But if it was a Republican, we know they would have dropped out. We know the media would be obsessed with it. We've seen a Republican pull his name, and we saw the young Republican group get canceled in New York. So I think that tells you everything you need to know. Now let's go to our next story, which again is the media misleading its audience. ABC News decides to run a fake news story titled, "The President is going to name the ballroom after himself." Take a look.
So President Trump hasn't officially named his new $300 million ballroom, but senior administration officials are telling us it's likely going to be named after him. Officials already referring to it as the President Donald J. Trump Ballroom, and we're being told that that name will likely stick. Our ABC News chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce actually asked him about it yesterday. Take a listen.
Do you have a name for the ballroom, please?
Do I have a name for the
ballroom? What are you
I won't get into that now.
Trump is known for branding his construction projects after himself. Now it appears, well, it may live on forever there at the White House.
And, you know, he loves nothing more than seeing that last name on top of skyscrapers, also attached to watches, steaks, and other things that have had the Trump branding. So, Kira, it's perhaps not surprising that this would be the Donald J. Trump Ballroom, given that this was his idea. And the White House says he is going out and seeking the donations for the fundraising effort to bring in the $300 million for the cost of this ballroom. But as you noted, he is now bringing in more than that. The White House says $350 million million has already been raised for a ballroom that is supposed to cost $300 million. The White House hasn't said, though, the difference in accounting there of what they're going to do with that extra money at this point.
Okay, just really quickly here. That is how disgusting mainstream media has become. That is poor reporting. You claim to be a journalist. Name your sources. Officials is not going to cut it. Okay? Now, the interesting thing is I have a clip to show you because the president did come out late last night on his trip to Malaysia, and he told us exactly what he's going to call it. And it's not going to be named after him. But before I show you that, just understand this. If the president raises $350 million and it only costs $300 million for a ballroom that's 90,000 square feet, why would that cost less than Barack Obama's basketball court that he put in the basement that came in at $376 million? Can you guys help me with the math on that? I'm not getting that. But here's what the president had to say.
Well, we've raised a lot. We've raised over $350 million. It's a beautiful room, a big room. I don't have any plan to call it after myself. That was expected. Probably going to call it the Presidential Ballroom or something like that. We haven't really thought about a name yet.
You guys heard exactly what he said. The Presidential Ballroom. Okay, coming from the horse's mouth. But that's not good enough for the media because as you guys can see on the screen, this is what they think is what's happening here. That's what they think is going to be the end result, that we're going to have a Trump Tower next to the White House because just look at their coverage, their reaction. I mean, it's truly a fatal case of Trump derangement syndrome. And the other interesting thing here is that they're so fixated on the White House and these renovations, which we've already gone over the numbers. It totally makes sense. And they have nothing to say about the $1.1 billion project of the Capitol building in Sacramento, California. And of course, a representative out of California went on to CNN and reminded Dana Bash of that. Take a look.
Well, I'm sure that taxpayers are glad that, they don't have to foot the bill for this. In California, they're actually renovating our state capitol, and it's been closed down since 2022. The legislators actually are supposed to have their offices there, and they've been have to work
What about all
off-site.
these private donors?
I think that's fairly common for things like this. The inauguration tends to get a lot of private donors for that sort of thing. So that doesn't really bother me. I think it's better than taxpayers having to foot the bill, like they are in California at a cost of at least $1.2 billion. But, if this was the only thing the president was focused on, then maybe I'd say, okay, there are more important things. But he's doing a lot of other things as well. So, this one doesn't bother me that much.
Yeah, nobody has a problem with this except the people who have Trump derangement syndrome and the people who are in a habit of having to react to everything that the president is doing or saying. And the reality about it is time is going to go on and there will be presidents that will be elected in the future and they will benefit from this ballroom. And whether they say it publicly or not, in their mind, they're going to say, oh, I'm so happy we have this ballroom. And the people who visit are going to be like, wow, this is a nice ballroom. And they're going to benefit from it. And the taxpayers did not have to fund it. And you know what's interesting as I put the bottom line on this? I guarantee you, I'm going to put a bet on the table here, that the ballroom will be finished before the Capitol building in California. Book it. All right, so let's hear from you guys in the comment section below. Do you support the idea of sending election monitors to these states during major elections at the state and federal level? Now, we know that under the Biden administration, he sent the most people in history. But it's interesting how the governor has forgot about all that. Let me know how you guys feel about that particular story. Secondly, the White House ballroom. I know it's probably a non-issue for you, but what do you make of ABC News blatantly lying about how it's going to be named? Okay, I found that to be interesting as well. And then finally, what do you make of the Nazi tattoo situation? Democrats refuse to get this guy to drop out of the race, and he's run it not for the House of Representatives, but for the Senate in Maine. Just give me your thoughts and everything you got in the comment section below. Now this.
Okay, he's going on to talk about his next video coming up. So let me show you here that this video does come from Devory Darkins. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's get back here and see what Doug in Exile has to say. Tish James pleads not guilty, but thinks she's above the law. Imagine that. Wow. Of course, she is a Democrat, so, and I want to come back here and Isn't it amazing? Where, he talked about Barack Obama building a gymnasium in the basement of the White House costing $372 million or $4 million, whatever it was. That's the first time I heard of it. If it was a big deal, you would think I would have heard about that when it was happening, but no. And yet Donald Trump is building a ballroom using donated money, not taxpayer dollars, and they're freaking out about it, calling it his ballroom. Like when he leaves office, he's going to take it with him. Is that what they're saying? Unfreaking believable. All right, let's get on Doug. Whew, maybe he won't rile me up
welcome
so much.
to Doug in Exile. Letitia James going down.
We gather here under a long shadow that this president has cast. And this shadow has now affected one of the greatest champions of this state, our Attorney General, Tish James.
We have her own press conference that she held today, but first we're going to intro it with Harris Faulkner coming up in just a second. Mostly I wanted to say thank you guys for watching. You guys know how much I love you as an audience, and I'm doing my best to bring you the news every day, just the really big stories.
Donald Trump is coming after her because she did the right thing. She held him to account. She showed that no man and no wannabe king is above that same law.
He's holding her to account, okay? I mean, it's documents written with her signature on it. Oh, I forgot she's a Democrat. Sorry, never mind.
And yet we know that in this moment, it portends danger, not just for this city or this state, but also for this country at large.
Danger.
We have to call it what it is. This is an authoritarian administration, and we, the people, will not stand for it. And so when we reject Donald Trump's vision, one of cruelty, one of punishment, one of smallness, and one of betrayal, we do so with our own vision of solidarity. And when it comes to Tish James, of having her back, because we know she will emerge out of it the same as she came into it, an advocate for the people of the city, of the state, and the people of this country, and she will continue in that fight, and we will continue alongside her. Hands off! Hands off!
She was at a Zoran Mamdani rally, so of course the crowd loved her, and here's what she said. SOT 38.
You see, I know what it feels like to be attacked for just doing your job.
Oh, God.
And this is a really big story from a really big woman, Letitia James. Here's Harris Faulkner.
And we have this now that is breaking. New York Attorney General Letitia James just pleaded not guilty in federal court in Norfolk, Virginia. It is her first court appearance on a 2-count bank fraud indictment tied to a 2020 home purchase. Prosecutors say Letitia James signed a second home rider agreeing the property would be for her personal use, which got her a better loan term. They say she then rented that house out to a family member instead of actually living in it.
To a crackhead family member, we'll show you later.
Expected to file now, she and her attorneys, a motion to dismiss the case, which she has called vindictive and selective prosecution. She's expected to speak at any moment outside court. We will take you there live. Remember,
I'm going to go ahead and take you there in just a second.
She ran on taking down Trump.
That's right. So let's remember that. She ran on taking down Trump. Now, this is her coming out of the Virginia courthouse. We stand with Tish. I do like this outfit she's wearing better than her usual sweaters and things. This is classy. So she's a fraud. Real estate fraud. I wonder if those signs are all purchased to come out in fake support of her as she pleads not guilty.
So I want to
Spam.
thank all of you. I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank you for your prayers. I want to thank you for your emails.
I'm praying that you find justice. I'm praying that the justice that you set out for Trump happens to you.
I want to thank you for your support. It has souls. And so I want to thank you.
Yeah, but it hasn't anchored your court
But
case.
this is not about me. This is about all of us. And about a justice system which has been weaponized.
Did the justice system that's weaponized against you cause you to commit real estate fraud, to buy a house with preferable loan terms and then not live in it so you could make money?
A justice system which has been used as a tool of revenge.
Yeah, what's that like?
This justice system which has been used as a tool of revenge.
You already said that.
And a weapon against those individuals who simply did their job and who stood up for the rule of law.
This is what a complete fraud. This is hilarious. I love it. So here's, let's get some meme responses here. There you go. Here's Trump playing Uno, the switcheroo card. That's his mugshot. This is all you need to post to Letitia James. Everyone send this to Letitia James. There's more. Letitia James got the whole family involved. She lied about having two primary residences, one in New York, one in Virginia, with her father signing as husband back in 1983. So either she's incestuous or she's lying. The primary residence in Virginia was occupied by her criminal nieces with warrants for their arrest. It's not political targeting, it's justice. So here's an image of her criminal nieces with their warrant down below.
OnlyFans is where girls like this who want to make some extra dough on their bodies go and pose in nothing or next to nothing, and they can make a lot of money doing that. And that's what Letitia James's grandniece is doing. Kayla, not to be confused with Nakia, the fugitive. Here she is. Here's the Kayla, the other accused felon that she's harboring in her other property. She's 21. She's an OnlyFans star with a public X-rated social media presence. She was charged in April 2024 with lying about her felony criminal record when she tried to buy a gun in Suffolk, Virginia, according to court documents. Mm-hmm. Kayla was legally disqualified from owning a firearm, reports the New York Post, due to an August 2020 felony charge of malicious wounding. What is that, you might ask? Virginia law defines it as a crime in which a person, quote, shoots, stabs, cuts, or wounds any other person, or by any means causes bodily injury with the intent to maim, disfigure, disable, or kill. Since Thompson Harrison was a juvenile at the time, the records are sealed. When she was just 15 years old back in 2019, she was also caught up in the criminal hijinks of her big sister, Nakia. That's the lady at the first property, who is a wanted fugitive by the North Carolina authorities. So somehow she was caught up in Nakia's alleged criminal wrongdoing as well. It sounds like an absolutely lovely family.
This is the irony meter we're going to set up here, because Tish James, we're going to go into how this is purely what she did against Trump. But here's Julie Kelly first. Contrary to the media reporting, including by Fusion Ken, Elizabeth Yusey was not fired by Lindsay Halligan. This was the accusation against Trump's lawyer, Lindsay Halligan, for resisting Tish James's indictment, but for leaking sensitive investigative info to reporters. Turns out she also sent that information to herself. So this is on a CNN article that we have. The Virginia federal prosecutor who resisted bringing mortgage fraud charges against New York attorney Letitia James. Remember, Trump had her, he didn't have her fired, but he wanted her out. And then she got replaced by Lindsay Halligan, the very pretty attorney that ended up bringing this case. Investigative files with James's personally identifying information to her own private email account. According to an email reviewed by CNN, the prosecutor Beth Yusey was dismissed earlier this month, at least in part because of the mishandling of the personal information. People familiar with her termination said. So, and then the media ran and said Trump got her fired, which is not true. Yusey's attorney, Margaret Donovan, told CNN that the former prosecutor has no record of any such email. Okay, well, that's a lie. Here's more memes. Here's a quote from Letitia James. This is about a justice system which has been weaponized, a justice system which has been used as a tool of revenge. They go, this is the starter pack. Here's all of the RICO charges against all of these 18 defendants and Trump, all mugshots. Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, name them all. Prosecutor who resisted bringing charges against New York AG was fired after allegations. She sent case info to her personal email. That's CNN reporting it, guys. So this is not Trump had her fired. This is she got fired for her own reasons. I'll read just one paragraph from this article, okay? Because this is CNN. I like it when Democrats make our case for us. The Virginia federal prosecutor who resisted bringing mortgage fraud charges against New York Attorney General Letitia James sent investigative files with James's personally identifying information to her own private email account, according to email reviewed by CNN. So it's CNN that has actually made the review on our behalf. Here's another meme. Say the line, Letitia. This is a Simpsons meme. Say the line, Letitia. Then she says it. No one is above the law. Okay, we're going to remember that. Here's Mike Davis posted. Prosecutor who resisted bringing charges against New York Letitia James was fired after allegations that she sent the case info to her personal email. So this goes into, this was not government weaponization that got that previous judge canned. This is all above board. This is Trump doing it above board. She's either guilty of mortgage fraud or she's not. And we've gone through all the documents that show she flat out is guilty of mortgage fraud. Now, that doesn't mean she'll be found that way in this court of law. Depends on who she gets as a judge, what the jury says, what all of them say. I believe she's dead to rights. She's done. We're going to find out if they have a justice system in Virginia, even though she pled not guilty. And of course, she's innocent until proven guilty, allegedly. But I believe she's going down. I believe Tish James could see an orange jumpsuit or at least steep fines. And should have, remember how they tried to remove Barr, Alina Habba, to be able to practice law in New York? I think they should do the same to Letitia James if she's guilty. What do you guys think? Does Letitia James get prosecuted on this one, or does she get away with it? Simple vote. You say yes, Letitia gets it, gets in trouble, or no, Letitia James goes free. I'm curious what you guys think. Tonight we have date night with Miss Tenaple and I. For those of you who are members at that level, you can join.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on from here. As you can see, this video does come from Doug in Exile. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. And, you know, I've said this before, the hypocrisy is astonishing. It's unbelievable. And it's out there in the open, and these Democrats are like, weaponized government, weaponized Trump. Unbelievable how they can be. I don't think they're stupid. I think they just are good at lying. That's all I think. Okay, I want to give you a little bit of information here from Dr. Michael Carlfeld. I think he has some good stuff to share with you, so let's take a listen.
Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Carlfeld, and for over 30 years, I've been assisting patients to move through their cancer journey using integrated protocols and supporting the whole being. In the Healing Blueprint, we will look at the foundation. We will look at your immune health. What can we do to support it? We will look at root causes. Why is cancer taking place? It doesn't just happen for a reason. There's always a driver. Are we looking at chemicals, heavy metals, pathogens, nutritional deficiencies? Are we looking at traumas? We want to explore all of that and unpack that for your clarity so that you know what's going on in your own body and you are empowered. I want you to be empowered. And so can you imagine moving from exhaustion to energy, to have that optimum, just enjoying life and living life fully? And also having the tools that you need in order to be able to move from diagnosis to remission. Or even better, the best cancer to get is the one you actually never get. That is the best cancer. So prevention is key. And I want to be able to give you that clarity, that confidence, and that healing roadmap towards remission, prevention, and also just feeling that optimum well-being. So please join me at the Healing Blueprint. I'm so excited to have you be part of this journey.